Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Aquarian Mind podcast. Today's podcast, episode number 109. I'm your host, Jamel Crothers. It's Mondays with Mello, and today I want to talk about the end goal for me, but also to kind of ask you guys what's really the end goal for you if you're working toward your goals and you're working towards something bigger than you and, all of those things. And, you know, the question is like what are you looking to get out of your journey? But I'll kind of like go through mine a little bit, and then I'll kind of delve into asking you guys, getting you guys to think about what your end goal is also. So um the one thing I always think about, it's like when you want something so bad, you would do anything as far as the work goes to achieve it, right? And that's what I deal with, when it comes to my writing, um, the podcast, the blogs, all that stuff, right? So, in my mind, every day is a new opportunity to impact someone with a poem, storyline, a book, a podcast, whatever it is that I'm working on or creating. Even, social media stuff. Sometimes I kind of post a couple of gems about life and experiences and things like that on my Twitter page. But for me, there's always motivation and drive for me to continually get better at my craft. So, right now, I want you to think about your goals right now in the current moment. Now, think about how bad you want to see the end result of all of the hard work that you've been doing, however long you've been doing it, whether it's a few months, a year, a few years, whatever it is. I bet that you envisioned everything that you've done and you start planning out what you're going to do and how you're going to do everything, right? So every time you start to think about, your journey and how hard it is, just close your eyes for a little bit and just visualize everything that you need to get done. Write it down and take one step at a time with it, right? Because I always tell you guys that this is the journey. This is not like the quick race, right? Now, for me, when I write everything down and I organize myself, I can visually see my goals, whether it's on my phone, whether it's, in a book or a piece of paper. So, however you want to get your goals done and however you want to, finish them, make sure that you're looking at what you have to visually get done, right? Because it's all a process and everything takes time. And certain projects are going to be more important than others. For me, I know how I work and I know how I operate. So I know that like there's certain days that I know like I'm going to be able to get writing done. And then there's days I'm going to be able to write and do podcasts. And then there's days I'm going to be able to just focus on podcasts. So I know how I think and I know how I operate. A lot of my blogs are written months ahead of time. Why? Because I sit and focus on writing blogs and thinking of new things to write about and talk about. And I keep my content as fresh as possible. And eventually the blogs turn into these wonderful podcasts that you're listening to, right? So I always tell you guys nothing comes easy. And it's all about pacing yourself and being patient with all of your goals. And I know it's not easy to be patient because, shoot, I have no patience at all. When it comes to anything in my life, I just don't have patience. Whether I am like, working toward a goal, trying to change a job, looking for love, whatever it is, I just don't have patience. But part of that is because of a lot of experiences that I've been through. I'm an empath. I overthink. I overanalyze so many things. And I'm very hard on myself. I'm my own worst enemy. But that's another story for another day. So the biggest part, which is what I've already said, enjoying the journey as much as you can. The good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent, whatever it is that you're going through. And for me, I enjoy the ugly parts of this because I know that I waste money on things that are really not going to get me anywhere closer to where I want to be. But you know what? Sometimes I got to test it out just to see what's going to happen, right? And I have made some larger investments a few years ago and it didn't work out. And it's just like, here I am, like, great. But I'm kind of more cautious with how I do things and I make smaller investments and I look deeper into things and I kind of like gauge how I want to do things. And I've gotten better at it. So I'm way more cautious of certain things, and it's because uh, my financial situation is way different now than it was a few years ago. Um, so I can't get away with bigger investments now than I did in the past. Um, but what I will say is that I learned, and on all the days that I don't want to do work, but I always do something because I can tell myself that I'm one step closer to my end goal. So I kind of want to throw that at you guys too. If you ever feel like, I don't want to do anything today, sometimes it's good to take those 1 or 2 days off. But once you hit that third day, you've got to kind of get back into the swing of things, because by day 3 it turns into day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7, and then now you're off rhythm, and now you come back to try to do things, and you have no mental focus at all. Trust me, it's it's proven that once you kind of steer away from like what you're working on, you eventually like come back to it, and it's hard for you to get back into the flow of it. So um, I always try to make sure that I'm doing something productive daily. And even if I'm writing for like an hour and then I'm recording these podcasts for an hour, that's 2 hours of work that's going to get me closer to where I want to be. So I always tell you guys, whether you do 30 minutes or an hour, you've done something for the day. And that's the good part, right? So honestly, I don't know if I'll ever reach the end goal, because for me in my head, you know, my end goal is, to do very well in what I'm doing, and, to impact people and to bring up uncomfortable conversations about what's going on around us. But in my own little way, I kind of feel like I don't really ever want to get to the end. I kind of just want to like pace myself a lot. I pace myself a lot more now, and I just go with the flow with things as far as my workload. And right now, as you're listening to this, I'm way ahead of schedule with a lot of things right now, especially with my writing and the books that I'm doing, the books I'm currently writing. So now I know it's like, all right, well, you can slow down a little bit. You can take a few days off. You can work on other projects. You can do certain things, and then you're good to go, right? So, um, I just want you guys to be able to relate to me in some ways and go, ooh, like, yeah, I do got to get work done. Or, ooh, you know what? Yeah, I am falling off. Ooh, you know what? Yeah, that end goal, man. And whatever it is, like, write that end goal down. I've never wrote it down because I just, I don't want to get comfortable with myself and say, okay, that's my end goal. And this is how much money I want to make. And like, no, I don't want to set them out. Whatever I'm meant to have, then I count my blessings and that's it. So, but I can say one end goal is to have millions of people like reading my content and saying, yeah, you know what? Yeah, this is uncomfortable, and this is something that really needs to be addressed in this world. And I think that's one of my biggest end goals. Anything else is just like, I don't want to like, delve into it too much. So I will always say that there will be an endless amount of growth for me. And, you know, if I was to ever get to that end goal, I have to ask myself, what's next? And I know what's next is just, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it here, but, I know what's next for me. And I think I've slipped up once or twice on a podcast and said it, but uh, hopefully you guys didn't really pay attention and really go into it and go, aha, so that's what it is. That's what he wants to do next. But um, when you get to your end goal, what's next for you? Will you become happy and be financially stable and then become complacent and comfortable with what you've accomplished? Because that's what happens. Complacency kicks in and you're good and you don't need to do anything else. You have nothing else to prove to yourself, because remember, you're not proving yourself to the world. You're proving things to yourself. So for me, there's always a blog to write. There's always a book to write, a podcast or YouTube video to record and create. And I guess that's why my end goal is nowhere near right now. And I'm always going to be the guy that travels through the dark tunnel, and eventually I'll see the light. And even when I do see the light, I don't even think it's the end there. So, with that said, that's my podcast for today. I thank you guys for listening. As always, be good, everyone, and go accomplish your goals.